Diddy was running some kind of Epstein-type deal where he was filming everybody. Genuinely love it when someone like Diddy gets caught, though. I mean, he had a lot of people at those parties, right?
I was never at Diddy's party. I don't even know the motherfucker.
We're out
I
here
don't want to know nobody.
telling jokes.
Nobody.
If you don't have what they need, they're gonna leave. You gotta keep them there. You need locks on the doors. You need a lot of heat. You don't have no air conditioning. Heat affects the alcohol. Everybody gets a little bit more comfortable and loose. Builds up a nice little sweat. You need some good music, and you need me, of course.
Yes. So tell me about your birthday party. Am I invited?
Yes. Yes, you're definitely invited. I invite you to all my parties. You just haven't seemed to show up to
No,
any
well,
of them.
is it on the East Coast?
Yes.
Well, that's why. Why don't you have one here on the West Coast? Because I work all the time.
Okay, well, maybe I have one at your house.
Where's that?
Joe Rogan just dropped a comment that shook up the internet, and this time, he's calling out the strange silence surrounding Ellen DeGeneres. With the whole Diddy scandal taking over every headline and feed, people are starting to ask the same burning question. How is no one connecting the dots? Ellen's name keeps getting dragged into these conversations, yet everyone's pretending not to notice. When Diddy got hit with those major federal charges, the internet did what it always does, went straight into detective mode. Old clips started resurfacing. Interviews people once laughed at suddenly felt creepy and unsettling when watched now. That's exactly where Ellen steps into the picture, and things get even more suspicious. Fans started sharing old clips of Ellen and Diddy on her talk show, and people couldn't help but notice how too comfortable they seemed with each other, laughing, joking, and playfully chatting about wild parties like it was no big deal. But now, with everything coming to light, those funny moments don't feel so lighthearted anymore. Something about their chemistry and those conversations just doesn't sit right.
All right, we're back with Sean Diddy Combs. Is it Diddy today? Because sometimes you're Puffy and sometimes you're Diddy. Or sometimes you're Daddy. What are you today?
I'm so confused today with it. As long as you say it in a nice way.
All right.
It's just all right.
Yeah.
Now that the conversation has completely flipped, those old jokes are being rewatched like they were secret messages all along. People are replaying those clips with fresh eyes, wondering if there was more behind the laughter than anyone realized. And here's where things get even spicier. Wait until you hear what Joe Rogan actually said about all this. According to Rogan, there's a real reason Ellen isn't being questioned the same way others are. He pointed out that Ellen had Diddy on her show more than once, and their little party chatter wasn't some throwaway comment. It was caught on camera, casual, and oddly comfortable. Now fans are convinced those conversations weren't just small talk, but maybe tiny puzzle pieces of a much bigger hidden story that's only starting to unfold.
What are you holding there?
I'm holding my package.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to do it.
When you really stop and think about it, the silence around all this feels loud. It makes people wonder, are we just looking at bad timing? Or is this a topic that everyone's too afraid to touch? Things get even more bizarre when you remember how Ellen's show came to an end after that massive toxic workplace scandal. That wasn't just another trending headline, it completely flipped how people viewed her. Not long after, Ellen and Portia decided to move to the UK, and she publicly connected that move to the political climate back in the States. But a lot of people didn't see it that way. To many watchers, the timing looked more like a signal than a lifestyle change, like something deeper was going on. Coincidence? Maybe. But audiences don't usually buy maybe. That's exactly why people keep digging up old footage, old interviews, and trying to figure out what really happened behind those studio walls. Now, before diving further into Joe Rogan's take, here's why Ellen's name keeps popping up in this whole situation. When BuzzFeed News released that explosive report on the Ellen DeGeneres show, it shattered her "be kind" image almost overnight. Former staff members came forward with claims of intimidation, racism, and a toxic environment that made people feel like they couldn't speak up without risking their jobs. What stuck with the public most was the irony. The show's entire brand was built on kindness, yet the behind-the-scenes stories painted a picture of pressure, fear, and control. The backlash got so serious that several executive producers were fired, and Ellen eventually addressed everything on air. But even after her apology, the public never fully let it go. The debate turned into one big question. Was the problem just a few bad producers? Or was it the culture of the whole show itself? Ellen defended herself by saying she didn't know everything that was happening backstage. But that split the audience completely. Some believed her, others didn't. And no matter which side people took, her once spotless reputation was already badly shaken.
As you may have heard, this summer there were allegations of a toxic work environment at our show. And then there was an investigation. I learned that things happened here that never should have happened. I take that very seriously, and I want to say I am so sorry to the people who were affected. I know that I'm in a position of privilege and power, and I realize that with that comes responsibility, and I take responsibility for what happens at my show.
The show kept running for a little while after the controversy, but when Ellen finally wrapped it up, she claimed it was simply because the show wasn't challenging anymore. Still, fans weren't buying that explanation. To a lot of people, it felt like the trust was completely broken and never truly recovered, no matter how hard she tried to move past it. Now here's where Joe Rogan's take comes in, and it definitely stirred things up. While discussing Diddy on his podcast, Rogan pointed out something that's been hiding in plain sight for years. He said it's wild how so many celebrities used to openly joke about Diddy's famous parties like it was some kind of status symbol. Everyone laughed it off back then, but with everything that's coming out now, those old jokes don't sound so harmless anymore.
There was always so much East Coast, West Coast shit that's still like in the zeitgeist, you know, like with Biggie and Tupac, and they were all hating at each other, and they both got killed, and there was a lot going on. And then there's people that thought that Puffy was involved and Suge Knight was involved.
Rogan didn't hold back. He name-dropped people like Ashton Kutcher and a few others who used to brag about Diddy's wild parties like it was some sort of exclusive badge of honor. Then he pointed out something most people somehow missed. One of the biggest stages where those party talks happened right out in the open was none other than Ellen's show. Rogan's message was clear. How did so many A-listers hang around those circles for years, joke about the parties on national TV, laugh it all off, and still claim they never saw anything? The current allegations against Diddy tell a totally different story, and that's exactly why Rogan's take hit people so hard. It's not like these party stories were whispered, they were said out loud, and everyone just moved on. There's one particular clip from Ellen's 2018 interview with Diddy that keeps resurfacing everywhere. In it, Diddy invites Ellen to his parties and teases her for never showing up. Then he adds that his parties start early, but the real party starts later, around midnight, up on the top floors. Ellen laughs and reacts like she already knows exactly what he's talking about. That quick exchange has people replaying the moment over and over, convinced there was more behind those smiles. The way she responded made it feel like an inside joke only a few people were in on, and that's the part viewers just can't let go of.
What time would your party start, let's say?
Like 9:30.
Really, that early?
Yeah.
I could make that.
Yeah.
But I could think of you of starting a party at like midnight. Like what time will it go till?
That's a different type of party, though.
Uh-huh.
No, it'll go from like 9:30 to like maybe 3 o'clock, 3 o'clock. And then, you know, we have the top 2 floors of the hotel.
Mm-hmm. And then it will carry on there?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then no, I mean the after party.
Mm-hmm. No, I know about them.
So let's unpack why this moment actually matters and why Joe Rogan finds it so strange that Ellen's name keeps getting left out of the main conversation. For starters, Ellen had Diddy on her show multiple times, and those party jokes weren't just one-off comments. They were practically a recurring theme on her set. Every time he showed up, the same kind of talk slipped in, and nobody really questioned it. Then, as the internet does best, people started digging even deeper. Old footage began resurfacing, including a 2002 interview Diddy did with Conan O'Brien, where he joked about needing locks on the doors at his parties. At the time, it sounded like harmless shock humor, something to get laughs and move on. But now, when people replay that same clip, it doesn't feel funny anymore. It feels chilling, almost like a clue that everyone missed years ago. Whether that's fair to say or not, it's definitely got the internet talking louder than ever.
You're neat, though, right? I would imagine your closet is color coordinated. Everything is hung in a certain,
yes.
Right? So you're neat. It's just that you're not the person that puts it back. All right.
Once those old clips started making the rounds again, the big question suddenly shifted. What did Ellen actually know, if anything? And why is she staying completely silent? The internet didn't stop there either. People dug up an old 2016 tweet where Ellen jokingly gave Diddy a funny nickname, Cuddle Snuggle Stuff, and that post started trending all over again. Then came a bunch of resurfaced moments showing Ellen being approached with questions about Diddy, and she completely dodged them. Some people said her body language looked tense and uneasy, while others argued that anyone would react the same way if they were caught off guard by paparazzi or random interviewers. No matter which side people landed on, those moments only fueled the fire even more. The silence, the awkward reactions, and the timing of it all just made the whole situation look way more suspicious to the public.
Now, first of all, you can make someone famous overnight just by sampling their sound. So I could get you a copy of that, and then you could just see what you want to do with it. Maybe that slides in someplace real nice, you know what I mean? Okay, let me ask you for some advice here, because clearly I need some.
Huh, what was that?
I'm the human beatbox!
Joe Rogan kept his point simple but sharp. If you were close enough to someone like Diddy to invite him on your show over and over, laugh about his wild party lifestyle on national TV, and react like you already know what those after-hours jokes mean, then people are obviously going to expect you to speak up when things get serious. It's not about blame, it's about accountability. When the spotlight turns and the jokes suddenly start sounding like confessions, staying silent just makes it look worse. Rogan basically said that once you're part of the conversation, especially on camera, you can't act like you were never in the room when the truth comes out.
Where are you going after this? It's all 20s. Where are you going after this? What are you doing?
You know we doing what we plan to do, girl.
The silence from Ellen and from several other big names was exactly what Rogan said made this whole situation feel so suspicious. From a public perception angle, it's strange to see people who were once right in the mix suddenly go completely quiet. But hold up, because there's another layer to this story that makes things even more tangled. Remember Ellen's workplace scandal? That chapter might actually help explain why people keep connecting her name to this conversation. Former staff from the Ellen DeGeneres show described a work environment filled with fear, where speaking up felt risky and uncomfortable. Commenters online started noticing how that dynamic, fear, power, and silence mirrors what many believe happens in other elite celebrity circles, especially when influence and reputation are involved.
So Ellen, what do you think? Rihanna went back to Chris? Ellen, is that a good or bad move?
It's a bad move.
Okay.
It's a bad move.
Any advice you want to give to her?
Not really.
All right then.
Now, none of this means Ellen did anything criminal, but it does explain why her name keeps getting tied to these discussions, even years later. There are also stories that float around in the same context, like the so-called Ellen gaze, where a former crew member claimed the set always felt tense whenever Ellen was present, or how some guests were allegedly kept off the show due to personal friction. Whether every one of those details is completely accurate or not, people say the pattern stays the same: control, pressure, and silence. And once the public starts seeing that kind of pattern, they stop taking moments at face value. They rewatch, reinterpret, and start seeing every smile and joke in a new light. One moment that fans keep bringing up as the biggest contradiction came from 2009, when Chris Brown was accused of attacking Rihanna. During that time, Ellen confronted Diddy right on her show about why he let Chris stay at his house afterward. Ellen spoke out strongly, saying she didn't want any woman to think it was okay to return to someone who hurt her. It was a powerful moment that once painted her as someone taking a hard moral stand. But looking back, viewers now see it differently. They're asking how someone so vocal about accountability back then could stay completely silent now, when the same type of questions are circling the people she once defended and joked around with.
Well, this leads me to the perfect thing, because I would like you to clear something up. There's a lot of talk going on with Chris Brown being at your place in Miami, and you arranging Chris and Rihanna getting back together. Now, you want to talk about that?
See, I wouldn't use my Twitter to talk about that, because that's somebody else's business.
I know, but you gave them your house.
Yeah. But we're talking about Twitter.
Yeah.
How you use Twitter, and that's something else. I'm just saying I wouldn't really Twitter about that.
Okay, let's not Twitter about it. Let's talk about it.
Okay. Can we dance?
Yes.
I would like to dance.
Dance. Do it.
Later, when all those workplace allegations around Ellen's own show started spreading, former staff began describing what they called a toxic environment, one that felt tense, intimidating, and emotionally draining. That's when the internet started calling her out for hypocrisy, not because it proved she committed a crime, but because the contrast was just too much to ignore. One minute she was championing women's safety and kindness on camera, and the next, people behind the scenes were claiming her own set was filled with fear and pressure. Then, zooming out, another story started adding fuel to the fire. Reports came out saying that Ellen and Portia sold their Montecito mansion and moved out to rural England, with Ellen publicly tying the decision to the political climate in the US. But viewers weren't convinced. It didn't look like a random lifestyle move to them. To many online, the timing looked suspiciously aligned with Diddy's situation blowing up in the media, while his legal troubles dominated headlines. Fans started noticing which celebrities were speaking up and which ones went completely quiet. That's when the rabbit hole got even darker. The online crowd didn't just watch the story unfold, they started building new ones. At one point, wild rumors began circulating that Ellen had an arrest warrant linked to her former DJ, Stephen Twitch Boss, who tragically passed away in late 2022. The story even claimed that some secret recording was played in court. Of course, fact-checkers quickly debunked that entire claim. It was false. But what really stood out wasn't whether it was true or not. It was how fast the rumor spread. People weren't even pausing to ask, Is this real? They were just ready to believe anything that fit the growing narrative that something deeper might be going on. And that hunger for answers kept Ellen's name trending right alongside Diddy's. Even when the facts didn't back the claims, people weren't even asking, "Is this true?" anymore. They were asking, "Does this fit the storyline?" And with Ellen's image already cracked from years of controversy, her name turned into a magnet for anything shocking that could tie into that darker Hollywood secrets narrative. Once your reputation takes a hit in that world, every rumor sticks harder, especially if it sounds like part of something bigger and more mysterious. That's the real danger. Rumors move faster than the truth ever can. And once the public loses trust, no amount of explaining can make it vanish. That's exactly why these stories keep resurfacing year after year, no matter how many times they're debunked. Even in her Netflix special For Your Approval, Ellen brought it up herself. She joked about being pushed out of show business and admitted that the "Be Kind Girl Wasn't Kind" headline basically became her entire public identity. It was her way of acknowledging the damage. But it also reminded everyone just how much that narrative still follows her everywhere she goes.
And I've said it before, but I'll say it again. If I've done anything in the past 19 years, I hope I've inspired you to be yourself, your true, authentic self. And if someone is brave enough to tell you who they are, be brave enough to support them, even if you don't understand. They're showing you who they are, and that is the biggest gift anybody can ever give you. And by opening your heart and your mind, you're going to be that much more compassionate. And compassion is what makes the world a better place.
What really caught people's attention during Ellen's Netflix special wasn't just the jokes, it was her tone. The way she spoke about ego, exposure, and how the hate always seems louder than the love hit differently for a lot of listeners. She said, "There are such extremes in this business. People either love you and idolize you, or they hate you, and those people somehow are louder." But instead of hearing that as reflection or accountability, many viewers took it as deflection. It sounded like someone still trying to process the backlash rather than fully owning up to it. That emotional distance made people feel like Ellen was still in denial about what really went wrong, which only reignited the public debate all over again. Then came another viral twist that sent her name spiraling across social media once more. NFL star Aaron Rodgers went on Joe Rogan's podcast and made a shocking comparison. He suggested Ellen's old talk show set looked similar to Epstein Island's architecture. Rogan immediately shut that down, saying it just resembled a common LA-style building and was most likely pure coincidence. Still, the fact that it even came up says everything about where Ellen's reputation stands right now. People have started lumping her name into wild conspiracy maps next to some of the darkest figures in modern pop culture. Not because there's proof, but because the internet loves drama that feels cinematic. At this point, the truth almost doesn't matter as much as the storyline, and that's what makes it so explosive. Every theory, every clip, every resurfaced rumor becomes another piece in a web that fans can't stop spinning. So what's everyone really saying about all this? It's time to look past the insults and spot the real pattern in these reactions.
Boy, oh boy, Ellen, I love you. I know you didn't ask where I've just come from, but I just got off a plane. I'm on tour. I just did 5 nights in a row. And I just made it here, and I love you.
I love you too.
When that whole building in LA debate started floating around, the internet went wild with theories. Some users claimed Ellen knew something and was quietly living in England while Diddy was tangled up in a federal case. Others argued that Joe Rogan was simply saying out loud what everyone else had been thinking for months, asking why certain celebrities get dragged through the mud while others seem to get a softer edit. Then came the body language experts. Clips of Ellen dodging questions started circulating again, with people saying she looked guilty or nervous. But just to be clear, that's not evidence, that's perception. Still, perception is exactly what fuels online chaos, and that's what keeps these comment sections alive and explosive. When you scroll through the replies, you start to see the same storyline forming again and again. Old toxic workplace headlines, that half-accepted apology, the sudden move overseas that everyone treats like a coded signal, and now the Diddy situation tying it all together. Piece by piece, fans are stitching these moments into one massive narrative, and it's become the engine of this entire scandal. At the heart of it, people feel like Ellen never truly faced real consequences, and they're searching for a deeper reason why, which brings us all the way back to the question from the very beginning. Why does it feel like no one wants to mention Ellen when Diddy's name comes up? Many believe it's because she's being treated differently, not legally, but socially. They think Ellen still benefits from her name, her money, and her deep Hollywood connections. Even after stepping away from television, she's got the kind of influence that helps her shape her own story. But the difference now is that voices like Joe Rogan don't play by those same unspoken Hollywood rules. He'll say the quiet part out loud, not to declare guilt, but to challenge the silence. And that's why this topic keeps exploding, because when someone finally questions the untouchables, people listen. Once a massive platform like Joe Rogan's podcast treats something as a real question, the audience runs with it fast. The controversy isn't about saying Ellen is somehow worse than Diddy. That kind of leap would be reckless and unfair. The real issue people are pointing to is this: why do some celebrities get grilled endlessly, while others seem to be handled with kid gloves, even when there's footage, quotes, and moments that clearly look suspicious? That's why this conversation refuses to die down. The Diddy scandal didn't just spark new headlines, it triggered a rewind. Now people are rewatching old interviews, reinterpreting old jokes, and suddenly treating them like clues instead of casual entertainment. It's not just about gossip anymore. It's about audiences trying to spot the hidden patterns behind celebrity behavior and power. So, what's next for Ellen? Most likely, a quiet and private life away from the spotlight, unless someone steps forward with real, verifiable evidence linking her to something criminal, not rumors, not body language, not theories. She'll probably be remembered more for the toxic workplace fallout and her frosty reputation than for anything tied to Diddy's situation. As for Diddy, his legal battle is far from over. The process doesn't just vanish. There'll be appeals, court filings, and endless civil cases keeping his name in the headlines. And every time something new comes up, the echo keeps spreading, pulling more names into the discussion, some that might belong there, and others that probably don't. That's the messy part of Hollywood's rumor machine. It never stops spinning once the internet smells a story. Now that the dust has settled a bit, things have shifted in a major way, but the echoes from all these stories still haven't faded. As of late 2025, the Diddy case continues to make headlines, with real legal developments keeping it alive in the public eye. Federal investigators are still deep into their probe of Sean Diddy Combs, after multiple civil lawsuits accused him of serious misconduct throughout his career. In 2024, Homeland Security agents even raided his homes in Los Angeles and Miami as part of that federal investigation and event that completely shook the industry and left everyone wondering who might be connected next. Since then, Diddy's legal team has denied all wrongdoing, but the damage to his reputation is undeniable. Big brands quietly cut ties, and many of his celebrity friends stopped showing public support. That silence only made fans more suspicious, feeding into the ongoing conversation about how power, fame, and influence protect certain figures in Hollywood, while others get burned publicly. And that brings things right back to Ellen DeGeneres, whose own image never fully recovered after her show ended in 2022. She's kept a low profile ever since: no talk show, no daily media appearances, and only a few rare public outings with Portia de Rossi in California and the UK. While she's no longer at the center of the entertainment world, people still bring her name up every time a new Hollywood scandal breaks, almost like her downfall became the blueprint for how fast public opinion can flip. Joe Rogan, meanwhile, continues to stir the pot on the Joe Rogan Experience, where his discussions about celebrity culture and power dynamics still spark viral moments. What makes Rogan stand out is that he's not bound by the same PR filters that keep others quiet. He says what many are thinking but are too afraid to say. So now, as the Diddy case unfolds and more names continue to surface in connection to that investigation, the public's focus is shifting again. People aren't just asking who's guilty anymore, they're asking who's still protected. And that's the question haunting Hollywood as we close out 2025, because the silence around certain names might end up saying more than any headline ever could. So what do you think about all this? Has Ellen just been unfairly dragged back into the spotlight, or is the public right to keep asking questions that Hollywood clearly avoids? And with Diddy's legal storm still unfolding, do you think more big names could get pulled into this mess next? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this conversation is far from over, and we want to hear where you stand. The most insightful comment gets pinned, so make it good. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the truth behind the headlines, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more daily celebrity breakdowns, untold scandals, and Hollywood gossip that keeps shaking the industry. New stories drop every single day, and trust us, you don't want to miss what's coming next.